The Mississippi eviction notice. What is an eviction notice? Eviction notice, or notice to quit, is a letter sent by the landlord to the tenant notifying them that they should either take or stop a certain action or vacate the rented premises. Eviction notice can be of two types. Conditional, when a tenant is given time to remedy the breach of the lease, or unconditional, when a landlord terminates the lease without any alternative options for a tenant. What should an eviction notice include? Information about the tenant and the landlord. The reason for sending the notice. The date by which the tenant should take or stop a certain action. The consequences of non-compliance. The date and way of notice delivery, and the landlord's signature in the form of certificate of service attached to the notice. How to evict a tenant in Mississippi. Non-payment notice. There is no statutory grace period for rent payment in the state of Mississippi. This enables the landlord to send the notice to the tenant the very next day after the rent is due, unless otherwise stated in the lease. The Mississippi legislature gives the landlord the right to send a 3-day notice to either pay or quit to the tenant who failed to pay rent after the due date. Non-compliance notice. If the tenant violates the lease in another manner, the landlord has to send them a 14-day notice to either remedy the breach or vacate the premises. However, if the tenant's illegal activity affects others' health or safety, the landlord can skip the notice sending step and immediately start the eviction proceeding. What if the tenant fails to comply? If the tenant fails to comply with the rules of the lease, the landlord can file a complaint with a Mississippi county or justice court. The filing fee will depend on the county. Then, the summons and complaint are to be served on the tenant by a person over 18, not being a part of the case at least 5 days before the return date of the summons. The tenant's failure to appear for the hearing might result in a judgment in favor of the landlord by default. If the landlord wins the case, a writ of execution will be issued. According to such an order, the tenant might have to move out immediately after the document was delivered to them. Whether they have additional time or not will depend on the judicial officer's ruling. If the tenant continues occupying the premises after the given period, they will be forcibly removed by a law enforcement officer.